Hello and welcome to our video contemplation of day signature 62. This frequency corresponds to the 2 of hearts, the prime instinct to mature, and the heart virtue of relationship. It is represented by the angels of declaration and decision.
So we have the 62nd angel of declaration, who walks the pathway of precision to become the embodiment of impeccability. We also have the 40th angel of decision, who walks the pathway of resolve to become the embodiment of sovereignty.
Oh yeah. What a perfect thread of continuity to what we just discussed in the 61.
Yes, this is one of the reasons that we contemplate day signatures in a sequence. They're meant to move in a sequence. There's this blending of themes from one day to the next. There's definitely not like a cut and dry, even though there are cut and dry themes, there's absolutely this flow. It's much like, being in a river. Everything is sort of mixing together, but there's this absolutely like seamless movement from one to the next.
Yeah. And some days for us, that thread of connection could not be more clear. We didn't initially recognize that thread here, but now that we've seen it, it's blown our minds. Like I don't know about you, but like my hands are literally wet with just like anticipation, like excitement. I'm sweating over here in a good way.
Yeah.
Sweating it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot we're excited to share. We begin with the 2 of hearts.
Yes.
The 2.
The 2. So we have just moved from the ace, which is about ownership and beginnings. And now we're in the 2. The 2 is all about choice and union. Perfect, place for this angel of decision to be, because this is also what the angel of decision teaches. The importance of the fact that we even have choices, the certain choices that we're even allowed to make and even have to make are really, really prominent in this frequency.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This angel of decision really talks about how it is that our choices, like these signatures, move in a flow, and how that flow of decision making is inherent to the act of living, and how we're making those decisions moment by moment, whether we're aware of it or not. And I think it's the angel of decision that actually says, for most people, most of the time, that flow of engagement with life is totally subconscious. It's not something we're aware of. But the moment we become aware of it, we begin to engage the art of decision. We become participants in the movement, and we get to choose. We've always had the option to choose. Knowing this is what permits the creative participation we're always going on about. So very clear connection from the autonomy of the 39th angel to the sovereignty of the 40th. There's a lot of connections here, but the main theme, again, is actually something we find in the keynotes for the 2. We had a lot of awareness that kind of exploded out of the keynotes for the ace when we were working with the 61. Now that we're here in the 62 again, we find this home base of insight kind of exploding out of these keynotes of choice and union. It's also very easy right out the gate to connect the dots between choice and union, that we become literally unified with whatever choices we make.
Right. So yes, with the frequency of 61, we were specifically talking about choosing what is highest and best. And the reason that the angels encourage us to always choose what is highest and best is because we actually unite with that thing that we're choosing. Every time we make a decision, we're merging with it. We're allowing it to become part of ourselves and our world.
Making a decision is far more fundamental than it may seem when we use the words. For example, you might hear making a decision and jump to an idea like, what am I going to have for lunch today equals making a decision. Yes, it does. But do you also realize that you make decisions about every idea that passes through your mind? You make decisions about concept, whether it's appropriate or not, whether you agree with it or not. We are continually making decisions on this kind of subliminal level which directly attach themselves to our own self-concept.
Right. So this is what it's all about. This is what the Angel of Worth was talking about. Understanding what it is we're choosing to receive is entirely connected to our self-concept. This is why we do our work with the frequency portal. We talk about it all the time because this is exactly what we're doing with the frequencies. We are empowering ourselves to create our own self-concept. Most of the time, it's unconscious. We're just going with what we've been given. And it's in this moment, it's with this Two of Hearts that we get to make choices about our self-concept that change everything.
It's just like hearing you speak those words, for some reason, it's touching me on such a personal level, because I'm not different from anyone viewing this. I'm not different from you in this regard. We've all been given the stories. Up until this point, we've assimilated the ideas which we were given, or frankly, if we're being honest, the ideas which were imposed upon us. It's not like the ones who were imposing those ideas on us, our parents, our teachers, educators, these sort of things. It's not like they were doing it on purpose to keep us small. Everyone's doing the best they can with what they have. But frankly, if I continue to carry the stories that were given to me, I would be still stuck in the idea that I am fat, that I am boring, that I am a troublemaker, that I am not worthy of the family I was born into. All of these terrible, terrible stories. I am a failure. I am a disappointment. That just you hear along the way. These things which are very easy to agree with, to unify yourself with, to believe about yourself. But the thing is, those self-concepts, as they attach, they become a part of the inner world, which is then producing the world we encounter around us. It's why we struggle initially. But these paths, these angel pathways, these resources, frequency portal, these things that we are being initiated to in these conversations, they are the route back to our true self. This is the road home.
Yeah.
So we get to define the truth about ourselves. No one else gets to unless we agree with what anyone else says.
Correct. And that's why this prime instinct to mature, we find it here, because at some point we will discover that the choice is ours. It's always been ours.
Yes.
That's why we're here with this 40th Angel of Decision with the embodiment of sovereignty, because when you suddenly realize that the choice has always been yours to make, then it's up to you to move from this place of just swallowing the ideas that you've been given, and you decide to mature into who you're meant to be. And you do that by building that self-concept yourself. That's making correct. The choices, and you do it with this 60-second angel. It's perfect because it's the pathway of precision. So you're choosing precisely who you want to be. You're crafting by actually like choosing the words very intentionally, like word by word, word for word, who you are. And that's exactly what we do in the frequency portal.
Yeah. So this word mature, this prime instinct to mature, this process of maturation, central to the conversation.
Yeah.
First, it's going to require a process of maturity for any one of us to come to the awareness that we get to choose.
Yes.
I mean, right at the very beginning, it's like there's a long journey that leads you to that point.
Exactly.
Regardless of who you are.
It's that ownership, that step right before this one, where we talked about finally owning, your place. And in that ownership, you then are presented with the choice. The very next step is to choose.
Yes. So now we're going to do something with that. We've matured to such an extent that we've recognized that we are autonomous agents in this world. We're free agents, so to speak, in life. So that's huge. But the other side is now we get to move into this process of refinement. That's what maturity is. Maturity is evolution. It's a perpetual refinement of self, of behavior, of ideas. The emperor is the prime that represents this prime instinct to mature.
Mm-hmm.
So where is that emperor in you? Where is that large version of you? And how do you grow up into this? That's kind of what we meet here, this prime instinct to mature. A prime instinct is something inherent to the movement of life. There's no getting away from it. No matter who you are, no matter how old you are, no matter what you think, inherent to being is this need to continually grow, and for every step of growth to grow on the one that came before. That's what it means to mature. This process of refinement is what we're going to find here today.
Mm-hmm.
We must first and foremost refine our relationship to ideas.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you craft a self-concept which is no longer self-limiting.
Yeah.
That's so big.
Mm-hmm.
We're told by the angels that we receive of life's generosity by means of our self-concept. Whatever we believe about ourselves, that is the limiting factor in our capacity to receive. If I believe I'm limited or lacking,
mm-hmm.
I will receive only to the height of that idea.
Yeah, they describe it as the mold
mm-hmm.
that actually life then fills.
Perfect. Thank you for reminding me of that. That's the perfect metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
What we're doing here is we're going to begin to establish a new mold. A mold that actually produces something we want to see, something we want to be.
Mm-hmm.
So to mature, I can't help but see this literally physically with my own idea of myself. The reason I was told early on that I was fat is because I was a chubby little dude growing up, as are most children. I was shorter then.
Mm-hmm.
My body had moved outward, but not yet upward. And so, when I would play baseball and I would run to first, my parents used to joke that they could see the fumes coming from between my legs because they were steaming. My thighs were just like, just so too much friction. That was a joke, but I grew up with that joke, and now I'm a 6 foot tall man in a totally different body, which is clearly not fat.
Yeah.
But I still find this idea from all that time ago persisting. My body matured. My mind needs to follow suit. Do you see?
Mm-hmm.
The fact of the matter is, each one of us is going to meet an idea now, and by tomorrow, we will have grown beyond it. Do you realize that? Do you realize that the only reason any of us holds on to, any of us remains in any way impacted by any idea we've met at any point along the way is because we've continued to believe it in spite of its relevance? For someone like me to walk around sucking in his stomach and feeling worried about being fat, it's absurd when you look at the lanky dude in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not absurd to me because that's all I've heard on repeat for my entire life. What we're being offered the opportunity to do here is to replace one broken record with another.
Mm-hmm.
Or rather, to replace one broken record with a developing symphony of beautiful and uplifting narratives, all of which support who you are, all of which adapt to the evolutionary process you are continually engaged in by virtue of your existence. This is something brand new. Do you realize? This is awesome. And we have all the tools, all the resources, and all the power to enact this right now. And this day signature also holds all the keys that you could ever need to accomplish what it is that we're describing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we matured to realize we can choose. We have that power.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're going to further mature to enact that power.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to begin to craft a vision of ourselves based on resources that we can mature into utilizing
Mm-hmm.
in order to develop a sense of ourselves that blows away any small ideas we may have previously held.
Yes.
That's what the angels have invited us to do. It's what the frequency portal invites us to do. The words are grow to exceed your best vision. Before you can do that, you need to grow to exceed all those very small visions. Like
Yes.
the angel told us the other day,
Mm-hmm.
Release any vision that makes you feel small.
Dismiss.
Dismiss any vision that makes you feel small. Choose higher visions instead. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
We're right back to there. Now we're being invited to the act of it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This next part, I think, will sort of help us understand what that looks like. So the 2 of hearts is the heart virtue of relationship.
Yes.
And the 2s, we know those keynotes are choice and union. So I can really see the connection between union and this heart virtue of relationship. So I think we can kind of expand on that by understanding that what we are choosing as our ideas of our self-concept, we're in a relationship with it. And so what this frequency is inviting is a conscious relationship.
There it is.
So that we can actually be sovereign and decide for ourselves what we want to be in a relationship with.
Yes. In the same way that you will proactively choose your friends based on the quality of people that you want to be engaging with. We're going to do the same thing with our own ideas about ourselves, our own ideas about life, and our own ideas about what life permits us to do. This is so huge. It is all about relationship. This is the primary relationship, because your personal relationship with yourself is your primary relationship with life itself. You are the expression, the unique expression of that life, which is you. This is where it begins. There is no other relationship in our experience that is not some version of expressing what we are doing here. There is not any other relationship we will encounter that is not directly connected to what we've decided about ourselves on this level. As we arrive at this moment, we realize that we're in the hearts, that whatever it is we're going to do here is no longer going to be an intellectual vacuum. What we used to do when we would assimilate this information was we just took it all in the brain, and it all just went into this body. It integrated into our being subconsciously. There was no engagement of the heart, no engagement of the mind. In fact, unfortunately, the only way we ever even recognized the heart most of the time was when it ached. When someone said something mean to us and we assumed it was true and the heart said, ouch. What we know now as adults is that when the heart says ouch, it's saying no. It's saying that is not true. It's communicating something. So in arriving at this point here now in the hearts, not all this time ago in the swords, life is telling us not only do you have the ability to choose, you have a resource built into your very being which directly communicates the quality of those ideas, the quality of those relationships. If it's red, if it clutches, if it hurts, it is not true. Easy. If it's green, if it uplifts and expands and beautifies and you can breathe easier, that's a yes. If you gasp with excitement, if you're enthusiastic about it, that's a yes. These basic signaling systems, green means go, red means stop. Green means yes, red means no. They're built into the heart. That's where it lives. So we have this resource built in. We have the resource of the frequency portal. When we talked about the 61 in yesterday's day signature, we had this metaphor we kept returning to of the canvas and the paint. Today, our metaphor is actually, it's just got to be the frequency portal. There is nothing I've ever encountered that is so directly connected to everything we find here, that is a more effective tool of employing every insight we discover in this day signature. It's the frequency portal. So this is where we begin.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can start by just explaining what it is for anybody that doesn't know. Basically, what you're working with is fundamental statements which are directly tied to your self-concept that you then get to build out. And how we do that is by connecting those statements to a frequency or a number. So, for instance, my signature frequency, which is Laura Brainerd, is a 66. And then we base that exploration from that number and all the other word matches and correspondences that connect to the 66. And what we find is that we get to cherry pick exactly what that fundamental statement is of your full true name, in my case, Laura Brainerd, what that actually means. We're actually crafting it and deciding for ourselves what the meaning is of our name, which is an extremely powerful, like your identity is entirely wrapped up in it.
Mm-hmm. The frequency portal, the signature edition of the frequency portal, which is available now, contributes 6 unique personal frequencies, every one of which you get to work with in the way that Laura just described. A part of what makes this experience completely different from anything I've ever encountered is that we are not going to tell you what the truth about you is. Mm-hmm. That is not our responsibility. That's what you should have been told the minute you were born by your parents and your educators and everyone around you. But we weren't. So in this case, we're going to do what all of us deserved at the outset, which is to say, you get to find it. You get to choose it. What we give you in the frequency portal is a frequency. That's all. Mm-hmm. The frequency for Laura Brainerd is 66. The frequency for Timothy Brainerd is 91. She gets a 66. I get a 91. If you do nothing with the frequency portal, this means nothing to you. Do you see? There's actually zero value in the frequency portal unless you take what's given, which you can't receive by any other means, by the way. It's just like totally unique to what has been given to us here in this world of the 64 angels. Unless you take that and run with it, unless you take that and explore it, unless you take that and discover what it means, and then cherry pick all those different versions of meaning in order to discover what you want it to mean for you, it means nothing unless you do that. So for Laura, she's going to look up the frequency of the number 66. She's going to look at every word, every phrase, every statement connected to that frequency.
There's a liberated tarot card that connects to it.
Oh, there are a lot of different things, yeah.
So many things.
You're going to have all these different points of connection, all kind of converging on this number 66. And then she's going to cherry pick her favorite of what she finds, understanding that the reason those things are her favorite are because her spirit, her self is like highlighting them on her behalf. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's true about you. Yes, that's true about you.
If you read something and it feels good, that's the truth. Mm-hmm. The kind of fun part is that when you dive into the frequency portal, everything that you'll encounter is either empowering, uplifting, or feels good.
Yes.
So it's really more of sort of the subtle art of refining what feels the most exciting or the most uplifting, because everything that you will encounter will be available and it'll all be good.
It's accurate.
Yeah.
It's also accurate to say that when you encounter this process now, today, for example, you're going to read through a list of all these different words and ideas and claim a certain portion of them based on this process Laura has just described. And you continue to grow. And these tables continue to grow.
Right.
When we first started recording these day signatures, there were perhaps 11,000 total entries in the tables. Now, as of yesterday, there's well over 12,000. So in less than a month's time, we're expanding by not just the hundreds, but the thousands. There's a lot happening here, which means tomorrow or a week from now or 6 months from now or 10 years from now, as you return to your own unique signature, in Laura's case, it would be a 66. When you look at that exact same set of words and phrases, for one thing, it's not the exact same because we've been continuing to fill it. Mm-hmm. And for another thing, it's a different version of you looking at it. Mm. So even if it were exactly the same and we hadn't added a single extra word or phrase, the version of you looking at it now will see things the previous version of you couldn't. You will take what you initially crafted and expand it. That's why we built it this way, because when we're not responsible for telling you the truth about yourself, there's space in this context for your understanding about yourself to grow, to expand.
To mature.
To mature, that's correct.
Yeah.
The whole process of maturation demands this. It's what infinity does. You hear us talk about this all the time. Infinity expands. You do too. Life has to grow. There is no life void of growth. You have to grow because you are an expression of life. So whatever it is we build has to be adaptive enough to permit, one, your autonomous relationship to it, and two, a perpetual system of growth. Mm-hmm. Amazingly enough, that's exactly what the frequency portal does. So we have this resource that actually affords a framework for the development of this process that we're referring to here. What is it that we are developing? We're developing our own self-concept. We're learning how to grow to exceed our own best visions, and then to continue doing that over and over again. There's nothing we've encountered that is a more effective tool for that process than this. So this leads us into the angels.
Yes.
We know that we're we're essentially renewing our relationship to our own ideas about ourselves over and over again on purpose, finally. We're allowing it to grow. But now we meet the 62nd angel. Well, let's start with the 40th.
Okay.
40th angel of decision on the pathway of resolve to become the embodiment of sovereignty. And the 62nd angel of declaration, who walks the pathway of precision to become the embodiment of impeccability.
Yeah.
These are the angels supporting this process.
Right.
I can't help, of course, as I'm sure all of you have already made this connection. Lara's already explicitly stated it. Can't help but see the 40 here. Angel of decision, you get to decide. Finally, you've claimed that awareness. You're going to do something with it. You do something with it on the pathway of resolve. You choose to do something with it. That part of you that has maybe looked at the frequency portal before and saw that there was a dollar value connected to it and went back and forth on whether you should or shouldn't, just resolves to spend the $40 and get to work. You realize that this isn't about an amount of money. This is about the rest of your life and your relationship to it, that you get to liberate yourself. And here's a tool to help you do that. It's like, how much is that worth? Far more than $40. So we learn on the pathway of resolve to get out of our own way, get out of our heads, and get out of our own way, because there's real work to be done. And that work does require us to choose to make these decisions. The reason that we put a dollar figure on this at all is because there's your first decision. There's your first decision to what? Pay us money? No, to invest in yourself. It's just a few dollars, but that's symbolic of something. It's symbolic of you saying, I'm worth this amount, and I'm worth the time it's going to take me to derive value from the resource I've just purchased for myself. You're literally giving yourself the gift, whether it's in dollars when you purchase it, or in time and discovery and investigation as you're using what you just bought. This is all on purpose. It's a genius series of interactions, and they're all about you, not us. Believe me, there's not enough time in the day for us to get rich off of the value of these, because we build them all from scratch. If we did this full time, both of us at the same time, we would not be making much money. This isn't about the money, it's about you. So first there's the decision. Then there's the decision to act on what you've chosen. That's resolve. And what does it produce? It produces sovereignty, because no longer are you operating under the assumption of all these lesser stories which have been jabbed into you like shots of poor ideas all along the way. No longer are you a victim of that, because you've claimed ownership of your relationship to story itself, to ideas. That's the angel of decision. That's the art of decision. But what it really leans into here is the 62. And I know, like, what I feel most excited to connect to is declaration and the true name. Lara's got a discovery here that has only, from the beginning, only ever served us. So do you feel excited to share a little more about what you see in the 62?
Yeah, I love this angel. And
me too.
So this is the 62nd angel of declaration. And the cool thing about this word declaration is you'll actually meet this word as one of the frequencies in the frequency portal. Your creator declaration is the I am statement connected to your full name. It's one of the most powerful frequencies. And this is what this angel is really pointing to. It's saying, when you declare something, especially as foundational and fundamental as I am Lara Brainerd, that is something that not only deserves careful consideration, but attention. This whole time, we kind of say it unconsciously. We say it all the time, our names. Like, it's a very frequently expressed statement, yet we never take the time to really understand what it even means or decide to craft the meaning of it. And in that is all the power.
Yes.
So this 60-second angel of declaration is really special. I've actually always, not always, but a few years ago,
Since early on.
Early on in my study of the I Ching and human design, through a series of, following the breadcrumbs and synchronicity, discovered that what this angel is really pointing to is this concept of true names. And our true name is essentially any of the frequencies inside the frequency portal, either the star frequency, which is I am your first name. So I am Laura. That in and of itself is your true name, but you have to actually build it yourself. Yeah. And so
fill it with meaning.
Yeah. So this idea of claiming your true name is filling it with meaning, not just saying it arbitrarily, because it's filled with all of these unconscious ideas that you've been carrying around. When we decide to actually reinvent our self-concept in a way that is a match to our true self, then we're claiming our true name.
There it is. Wow. There it is. That's exactly what it is. I remember the first time you ever told me that at the time it wasn't 60-second angel, it was gate 62 or something, that it connects to true names. And I was like, really? Where's that from? And you're just like,
where do I begin?
Yeah, like it was, and you told me the story. It was this like series of discoveries and events. They all very clearly for you connected one after another, leading to this awareness. I remember being amazed about many things. One, amazed that you had managed to follow this series and arrive at a culminating awareness. That was magic to me. But it's something I've always valued about you, your capacity for pattern recognition. You are, I always call you the bloodhound sleuth. Like,
thank you.
You know what it means to follow those signals to an end. And you know what it feels like when that end, so to speak, arrives, when the penny drops. Like, that's what all of this was about. I was in 7 different books and on 3 different websites and following all these random things, but they weren't random, they were specific, and I was led to this finding. The other thing that blew my mind about this connection is that it's totally original to you. Only you could have found that very, very specific, very, very unique thread of connections arriving at this point of awareness. We had no way of knowing when we first met what that would ultimately mean for us. We've never stopped wondering and considering and exploring. But here today, it's like, oh, we found it.
Like today, we really understood why it's so important to associate the 60-second angel with true name.
Because of this.
It's because of the frequency portal. It's because of what we're talking about. It absolutely is a perfect method to understanding your true name, and the fact that the angel of decision is here is huge because it really is your choice.
Yes.
And the first step is deciding to actually engage, to actually embark on this process.
Declaration is claim. To declare something is to claim it. So declaration is claiming. And the way that we do this on the level of self-concept is by connecting anything at all, any idea at all, to the words I am. You fill in the blanks after I am with anything, and you're taking that into yourself. We are not used to thinking about our words in this way. And up until now, perhaps, many of us have been fairly careless about how we've thrown these words around. I am tired. I am hungry. I am angry.
I'm bored.
I am bored. Yeah, that's right? I am completely lost in the sauce. Like there's all these, and these are nice versions. We also know I'm struggling. I'm like, we all know how deep and dark that train of thought can go and how much each of us has connected to this simple I am statement all along the way. What we're realizing now, thanks to the 40th angel, is that we get to choose what we connect to that. And the 60-second angel is saying, you damn well better, because it matters. Because whatever you connect to it, you are declaring as true. That is a pronouncement. you are taking that into yourself, which is why the pathway is the pathway of precision.
Mm-hmm.
You must be precise. The essence of the whole set of virtues that we call swords, the sword virtue, the essence of that virtue is precision. So how is it showing up again here in the hearts? It's showing up here because now, after all this time, we finally arrived at this moment of opportunity where the knowing of the heart can be connected with the creative processing of the mind. So the heart and the mind become unified. Unity, of course, is one of our words today. Choice as well. We choose to unify the heart and the mind in a very specific way here. This version of precision, capital P precision, this pathway is about using the heart and the mind together in order to discern the qualitative value of any idea. Your heart, literally, your heart is going to tell you whether it's true or not, whether it's connected to your true self and your true name or not. Any idea, any word. Think about this. Fill in the blanks. I am a failure.
Not true. Doesn't feel good.
Very instantly, you recognize, I don't like that one.
Mm-hmm.
That's not because you're dishonest. That's because it has no part to play in your story. It is in no way connected to the truth of who you are. Mm-hmm. So, gone. Precision says no. And it says it here. It says it in the heart. What this pathway does is it connects your mental awareness to what the heart has always been saying. So when your heart says no, your mind says, that means no, it's gone. The two work together, and guess what happens? It goes away for good because you've got far better ideas to fill that blank in with. I am large. I don't know why exactly, but yeah, that feels like spacious, like I can breathe. That's yes, I am large.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It makes me think of this idea that, we're only able to squeeze a small portion of our soul into the physical body because we're so large. The true scope of our energy is just massive. I love thinking of that concept. It's just, it's like, I can connect to that.
Well, what I can't help but realize is that we've probably never been trying to squeeze the infinity of our soul into a body.
Mm-hmm.
We've been trying to squeeze it into a body of ideas.
Right.
So, this body isn't going to grow much more than it has at this point. But my perception can grow indefinitely, forever.
Mm-hmm.
That's large. That's a large enough container for infinity to move through. So actually, the soul doesn't need to squeeze into anything. And in any case where that is being attempted, what's going to happen? You're going to feel like the butterfly in the cocoon. You're going to feel like, dang, I don't know. Maybe this was comfortable at one point, but I just don't think I fit any longer. Mm-hmm. You're constantly going to burst out of those prior ideas, those previous containers. That's true of the frequency portal too. I promise you, if you work with your frequency portal today to the greatest extent of your capacity, by a week from now, you're ready for more.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you know? You know when you go back over those original words and they don't ignite that same sense of wow. It means there's more to discover. It's meant to grow, and it's meant to never stop growing.
Right.
So precision is about unifying the heart and the mind in such a way that you become capable of discerning the value of any idea. Play that back 1,000,000 times if you need to, and then do something with it, because this pathway of precision and the pathway of resolve work together, and you will not benefit at all unless you develop the resolve to use that capacity for precise discernment. This absolutely requires a warrior-like determination to make something more of your own world, your own life, by virtue of your own ideas about yourself, your own self-concept. There's work to be done. Mm-hmm. It is not shadow work. It is not work of healing. We're not trying to fix anything that previously did into line. We're simply replacing it.
Yeah.
That's wild. I can't help but think of, Jesus walking around, he sees a paralytic. He's not getting to work on healing paralysis. He's saying, pick up your bag, stand up, and walk. Another really cool example is the blind man that Jesus came upon. He said, put mud on your eyes and then wash your face. the reason he did this is because that act of putting mud on the eyes, it's not what healed blindness. It was a symbol of the choice this random individual, this stranger, was choosing to enact as a statement of faith. So that person choosing to put mud on his eyes was a declaration of intent, of awareness, of that faith. And of course, he could see. Mm-hmm. Why? Because Jesus knew the truth, which is that health is inherent. This capacity, all of these capacities, that largeness, that perfection, all of it is inherent. Every apparent obstacle to it, it's there in order to expand the perception. It's not there to be healed. It's not there because someone screwed us over when we were young. If I still think I'm fat, being in this body that I am now, at this point, at 36 years old, that's my fault. I'm missing something. I'm not broken and missing something from my being. I'm not yet consciously aware of something I'm meant to see. That's what I mean by missing something, right? This is showing us how to resolve that. Pretty cool, that resolve and resolve. Mm-hmm. You know, This is precisely how we resolve the apparent brokenness. It's by picking up our bed and walking. Mm-hmm. We thought we were paralyzed. We thought we were victims. And Jesus or, anyone else comes along and says, hey, you don't need to stay like that. You can, in fact, walk, but you need to choose to.
Yeah. I think this whole conversation really fits very well with the theme of the month. Our month frequency is freedom.
Yeah.
So we're learning each step of the way how that is truly achieved, how true freedom is recognized and claimed.
Freedom and revelation. Mm-hmm. Those are the two angels. The angel of freedom is the 55th angel. The angel of revelation is the 33rd. Mm-hmm. It is a revelation if you've spent your whole life paralyzed on a cot that you actually do get to choose to pick that up and walk and have a life. Mm-hmm. That's a huge revelation. It's such a huge revelation, in fact, that the majority of us in that position are going to say, but I can't. Why are you mocking me? Right? Mm-hmm. So the angel of decision comes along and says, you get to choose. And we say, I wish. No, we resolve to trust. We talked a lot about trust, which has been initiated every step along the way, but we talked a bit about it yesterday. We choose to trust that this is in fact true, and then we choose to do something with that. And what's the downside? Think about this. If you choose to trust and you choose to do something with that and nothing happens, you're right where you began. Nothing is lost. You literally have only everything to gain and nothing to lose. So does it really require all that much trust, or does it just require a willingness to move? Mm-hmm. If you're perfectly fine with being paralyzed, fine. But if you want that larger life, if you feel called to more, if you cannot help but to consider, man, what would it be like to get up and move around on purpose, under my own volition, to go anywhere I want to go without having to beg for help or forgiveness, then it's time. It's time to walk the pathway of resolve and to establish a new sense of yourself through a very, very precise process that you are totally equipped to do in order to firmly and completely, for all of time, resolve all of those apparent issues that kept you paralyzed to begin with. See how that works? I mean, this is wild. Mm-hmm. And what do we arrive at? The embodiment of impeccability. Mm-hmm. Do you know what impeccability is? Impeccability is literally and only being yourself. That's all. The true name is what you discover through the precision, and what you embody is your true self. Mm-hmm. Impeccability is being true to your true self. That is all. But it does require everything we've talked about today. Mm-hmm. And your true self grows. So it's not like you ever arrive. It's that you arrive at, you arrive to the game. You show up to the game. You show up to the process, and now you're engaged in the flow. That's what it means. You're not becoming a thing. You're a thing becoming. Mm-hmm. It never stops. Yeah. So that's what you're arriving at. Impeccability is showing up to continue showing up to grow. And that's sovereignty. That's true sovereignty. You're no longer dependent upon people to feed you. You're no longer, and feed you is, of course, connecting to the metaphor of the paralytic, but do you realize it's also connecting to the metaphor of our maturation process? Yeah. If I depended on others to feed me, I'd still be getting a bunch of crappy stories with maybe some nice ones mixed in if I were lucky.
Right. We have a choice of what to consume.
Correct. And we are the ones who get to choose what we eat. Mm-hmm. That's sovereignty. So I will choose which ideas, which words I connect to I am. I will use tools like the frequency portal to do this, but I will then continue to do this all the time. And I will monitor my own inner dialogue and my own verbal expression to the best of my ability so that I am no longer connecting I am to things that I don't want to be a part of, that I don't want to literally be. Mm-hmm. I am large. My life is rich and growing richer by the day. These are ideas and phrases which are so much more than mantras. We are developing or crafting a new mold.
Yes.
When you find your frequency and you begin working with these words, use the I am statement to help identify which ones really hit. Mm-hmm. For example, my star frequency is 58. Star frequency is I am plus your first name. I am Timothy. In that frequency, one of the words on our words table is breakfast. So when I'm working with this, I like to use this example because it's very obvious and cute.
Yeah.
I am breakfast. That doesn't do anything for me. Mm-hmm. No big deal. But you know what another exact match to 58 is? Absolutely good. I'm not joking. So when I work with my star frequency, literally the very first word that I see at the top of this list of words resonating at that frequency, in alphabetical order, first one, first take, I am absolutely good. I am going to take that, I'm going to claim that, and I'm going to live that. I choose to. Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't you? What's your frequency? What's the first word waiting for you? Mm-hmm. You get to move through it in this way. And when you do, you will be developing your own sense of self under your own volition. You will be taking those steps. Mm-hmm. No one else will tell you. No one else will be reading your star frequency. You will be producing and developing and cultivating and refining your own star frequency forever if you wish. Mm-hmm. That's an altogether different activity from anything we've ever done before.
Yep.
Oh, and it has only continued to blow our minds day after day. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I just want to check if there was like something on the edge of my memory with that. I want to make sure if it needs to be said, it can. Okay, it's about meaning.
Okay.
We are not responsible for what happens around us in our experience. We're responsible for infusing what happens with meaning. Yes. Do you realize that the most important thing happening in your life is literally you? It's not the circumstances that swirl around you and never stop moving. It's the center of that storm, so to speak, which is you. You are the most significant happening in your own life. Wow. So we get to choose what meaning is infused into you.
Yeah.
Well, into ourselves. You get to choose what meaning is infused into you. We get to choose what meaning is infused into us. That's what this is about. When we talk about crafting the narrative and all of this, we're literally talking about injecting meaning into something. That meaning was previously injected by others. And that was done indiscriminately, and it had nothing to do with you, frankly. Mm-hmm. Nothing whatsoever. So all of that is going to be cleansed, it's going to be purged, and it's going to be replaced. You don't have to heal it. You don't have to get to work digging out the deepest, darkest versions of that. No, not at all. You get to do this instead. You literally get to play instead. Your way of cleaning up is the most playful, the most innocent, the most creative, and the most proactive, and of course also the most effective process you could possibly imagine. You do that by infusing new meaning. It's the same thing that happens when you've got a glass of water with a bunch of dirt in it. If you try and clean that dirt out with a spoon, you will never succeed. Even if you emptied the whole cup of the water, it's still going to have dirt in it. The only way to clean that cup is to pour so much water in it that eventually all the dirt is gone. That's what we're doing here. We're going to fill the container of self so completely with the truth, using the resources that we have been given direct and free access to. And then life is going to grow around us in direct response to the inner life that's growing within us.
Wow. Good metaphor.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That's day signature 62.
Wow-y.
We're obviously very excited about it. We know what's going to be filling our day. And we are excited. I mean, I'd be excited to hear about any of you who are using this, playing with this, employing these insights, these findings for yourselves. Never hesitate to reach out to us. We always think of this as a dialogue. Obviously, we're doing a lot of talking when we show up, but we want it to be a dialogue. So do something with this, resolve to. And once you have, include us in the conversation. Give us a reason to celebrate with you. Yeah. Anything you'd like to add before we conclude?
No.
Okay. Then, having said all that, we thank you as always for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Okay. Goodbye for now.
Bye.